Hi, my name is Cori Doerrfeld. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I am both an author and an illustrator of children's books.
Hi there, I'm Gianna from Family Fun Twin Cities, and this is the Let's Go Do Fun Stuff show.
Today on Let's Go Do Fun Stuff, I am welcoming Cori Doerrfeld. She is an author and illustrator and wife and mother here in the Twin Cities, and she loves living in Minnesota. Listen in as we discuss Cori's work and especially her newest picture book, Nellie's Big Splash, about the most adorable little sea turtle you ever did meet.
Perhaps my best known title is The Rabbit Listened, which is currently in 34 languages all over the world and is my only New York Times best-selling book. So that's kind of excited. Although I've helped make, I think, close to 50 titles at this point with both local Minnesota-based publishers and national, international publishers.
That is so exciting. So The Rabbit Listened is a very quiet book. I remember talking about that one. You have a new book coming out. Can you tell us about that one? And is it similar to And the Rabbit Listened?
So my new book is called Nellie's Big Splash. And I feel like it's similar in that it can have that quiet encouragement to maybe think more about emotions. You know, The Rabbit Listened is all about learning to have empathy. Where Nellie's Big Splash is more about, it's a little sea turtle. So little sea turtles are kind of quiet. But if anyone knows, I feel like most people know, I know kids always get excited. Sea turtles are buried in the sand as eggs by their mom. And then even when they're itty bitty, they have to crawl their way out and make it across the beach into the ocean. And to me, that sounded very scary. And so Nellie's little journey to having to face these big waves is more or less what the story is about, but is really a metaphor mostly for me and all the moments in life that I felt I was not big enough or brave enough to kind of make it through. But as we know, we all are made of more than just our fear. We are also made of courage. And of course, just like Nellie, if we finally embrace that moment and take that leap of faith, you can make it to calmer waters. How about we'll put it that way?
How did you come up with the idea of a sea turtle when you live in landlocked Minnesota? Well, we have lakes, but they're not the same as the ocean.
Really? I've always been a big nature buff. As a kid, I don't know if you remember this, it was like this subscription kit where you'd get a card in the mail that was related to an animal, and it was kind of like a little encyclopedia of animal trading cards you could collect. Mm-hmm. I loved those cards, and every time I could write a report or draw anything, it was always an animal and learning about animals. And so I think I just still usually think of animals when I'm going to make a story or draw something. And usually there's some animal that seems to represent perfectly what I want to say. And so it really was thinking originally, the seed of the idea was starting in a dark place, kind of we're all born, and then having the courage to then maybe move through another dark place. And so it was the idea of, I remember that was the first image I got, was this little turtle emerging from the sand and just too afraid to go on. So it's really it's hard to explain when an idea kind of forms. There's usually just something that seems right to tell that story. And it was fun. It was really fun to draw sea turtles. If it was going to be more accurate, there should have been more nighttime, but maybe that enhances the danger of Nellie's situation, is that most of them hatch at night. And so I maybe should have looked at that a little more, but we're just going to go with yes, but it's more dangerous. She's out during the day.
Yeah.
But yes, I try my best. Although again, just for fun in the illustrations to be more varied, these little turtles are actually they're green sea turtles. And in reality, they're all like a dark, almost like a blackish purple color when they're born. But I was having the trouble of no one could tell which turtle was Nellie. So then they all ended up kind of rainbow colored in the book. So
Yeah.
it is a
Oh,
mix of research and
Mhm.
having fun, just so that the story can be the clearest version of it.
Right. Artistic license to help with the actual story, right?
And maybe it'll encourage kids to be like, I don't know if that's accurate. I think I want to research more about sea turtles. If nothing else, hopefully it just sparks those little, curiosity moments in kids and maybe
Yeah.
grown-ups too.
Yeah, that makes sense. How did you get started in illustrating and writing?
So this is kind of fun. It is very much a mix of circumstances and luck and hard work, of course. I did not go to school for it. I did study art, but I always thought I would get into animation. But right when I was in college is kind of when Toy Story and everything like that was coming out, and hand drawn really wasn't, no one was really doing it as much. And so I was like, I don't know what I'll do. And my only other main form of work I'd done was with kids. So I actually worked in childcare for a long time. But the man I ended up marrying, I was dating at the time, and he was very into self-publishing, something I knew nothing about. And he would draw and write these comics and then print them, and then we would go to conventions all over the country to sell them. And finally, I was like, I'm driving to San Francisco in 2 days. I'm sitting behind this table. I'm going to try to make something, and I read so many books at the daycare, and I know you can't see them if you're listening, but if you can see, I have, this is the very first book I ever tried writing and painting. It was just based on one of the little kids at my daycare, and Tyler helped me. I didn't know about gutters or bleeds or anything, but he helped me lay it out, and we just printed it on a printer. And as luck would have it, we were at a convention in New York, and there was an editor from HarperCollins, and she picked them up and brought them back. And that's really how I got my first big job. But it was just illustrating, but it was still kind of cool because it was for Brooke Shields. Brooke Shields wrote a picture book. And so I had to kind of pretend, yes, I know how to illustrate a picture book. And yes, I can absolutely do it with a celebrity. And so that was kind of my foot in the door. But then what was cool is they eventually said, well, what about you? And so a lot of those original little stories did eventually become my first published books. And then it was really just wanting to stay home with my own babies that I was like, I got to keep this going. This is kind of nice. And I'm not saying it was easy, but it did allow me to stay with them. And then I would just, kind of work at night and weekends. So really just a mix of, like I said, circumstances and luck.
Did you meet any of your celebrities that you illustrated for, or not really?
No, it's very, even if your author that you're working with is not a celebrity, there's usually not a lot of interaction. I feel like it's getting better as publishers realize that maybe that's okay, but most authors I don't really get to talk to, even meet. So yeah, I know Brooke Shields definitely was too busy, although she did say my name on TV a couple times promoting the book. But again, it's so hard because she didn't know, nobody knew that was my first try. So sometimes I look back and I'm proud, but it's my first book, so it's a little rough, but that's okay.
Your first book was promoted on TV by Brooke Shields because it was also her book, but it was your first book. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's an interesting mixed bag because I know I've friends and I've done like celebrity books are usually very rushed and you are not the important person involved. So it's exciting, but also your place and you do whatever they say. But definitely I feel very fortunate that it was a fun place to start.
Okay, so did you grow up in Minnesota?
No, I actually grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and then I came here for college. I went to St. Olaf because that's where my one aunt went, and then I was like, this place is great. So I pretty much never left after that. So I've lived here longer now than I did live in Illinois. But yes, I was a transplant and went through all the issues that can be for people who aren't born here.
Right, exactly. Is your husband from here? Is he a Minnesotan? Okay, so that also probably helped a little bit. A
little bit, although I feel I'm more extroverted and I'm the one who I mean, he loves the outdoors, but I was like, oh, the state fair. We got to go to the state fair. Or just, I don't know.
Mm,
We still get more excited about, look at that new restaurant, or what about this lake?
yeah.
But that's what I love, is it's such a great mix of green spaces and city spaces and people, and Chicago's great too, but it feels more just like city. I mean, obviously there's still some parks, but I love here. You can kind of live anywhere and you're going to have a lake and a park and a green space that you can walk to.
Yeah. So you live in Minneapolis. What are some things that you like to do in town? In town or in state?
Sure. I love to walk around the lakes. I walk around Lake Nokomis a lot. I love Lake Harriet as well. I really love, we have some great sledding hills near us. So in winter, you can go sledding. I'm not a huge skating person, but I will go ice skating. I like to swim in the lakes. We really love to drive up north, like most people go along the North Shore. That's probably one of my favorite things to do. But I also love going like to Nurstrand and a lot of the other state parks and things that we have. It's just really such a great state to be outdoors. But I also love, we have such a great kidlit community here. I feel like there's so many amazing people, and it doesn't happen as much. I feel like we're trying, just like everyone after the pandemic, things have been slower and fewer, but we're trying. But I love meeting up with them and hearing what they're working on. And of course, trying new restaurants and things like that. Although I think sea salt will always be one of my favorites by the falls. I love the falls. It's so cool, isn't it? Yes. It's just right there, right in our city. So
Yeah. I went to sea salt once with my dogs.
Yes, there's many.
And my dogs aren't like the most great trained dogs. How do I say that? My dogs aren't well trained. That's what I'm trying to say. They're lovely, they're sweet, but they're also not very well trained. And so like, I was like, there's other dogs here. We can do this. But it's delicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just such a unique setting. But yes, my dog is with you on that. He's very cute and people want to pet him, but he is not people friendly. So.
Okay, so how many kids do you have?
I have two.
You have two?
They're getting older, 16 and 13.
Isn't that a weird transition? I know my youngest is 14 and my oldest is 19, but will be 20 next month. And it's like, how do you spend time with your teenagers now that they're teenagers?
I feel fortunate again that my kids still really like me. I don't know how I pulled that off. And I think because we are an art family, they also make art. They also are into cartoons. I mean, we go see like Sonic 3 together. We just went and saw Dog Man. And they're always down to just go to the mall and hang out or go for a walk. I mean, they definitely spend plenty of time not wanting to hang out with me in their rooms, on their computers, talking to friends. But I feel like they're usually still pretty game. Or thrifting. Oh gosh, they love to go thrifting. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So many great thrifting spots. So usually I just throw stuff out there and I'm excited when they say yes, but also respect that they might not want to. They might not even, getting them out of bed is really the biggest challenge.
Yeah. When it's noon, you need to get up. Like,
yep,
I've given you this long. Yeah.
That's what we try to say too.
So you did mention something about the state fair, going to the state fair. Is there a favorite at the state fair that you have or that your kids will have?
We have gone every year since they were born, other than when it was shut down. It's hard to pick. I love it all. I always get the fried pickles. I always try at least 3 of the new items. They always want to go on the big slide. I always love the art show. I'm always really excited if someone I know, I haven't tried yet, someday maybe, but it's just so fun when someone is in the art show. I mean, the animals, we always love the animals, but there's just nothing that beats that vibe, especially if you get there early and it's like a creature waking up. It's like kind of that mysterious morning and there's not a lot of people, and then it rises up to this exciting media where it's like an ocean of people. And then at night it kind of becomes a whole nother thing again. And yeah, I love everything about it so much.
That's awesome. You really truly are Minnesotan.
All right, I know. I don't know how it happened.
Yeah. Do you have okay, we're going to talk about your Minnesota favorites, like in general. Just the first thing that comes off your head. Don't worry about if you're like, wait, no, that's not actually it. Whatever, it's fine. What is one of your favorite Minnesota foods? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be hot dish, but you know what I mean? Like, what is something that when you think of Minnesota?
Well, just because it's not far from me, I think of Juicy Lucy's a lot at Matt's. If you've ever had one of those, it's, where they put the cheese in the middle and you bite it and it's all gooey. And definitely I didn't know about that till I came here. And I know I already mentioned sea salt. I definitely think of eating there. I've been to Awamni. That place is incredible.
What place?
Awamni, it's the Native American restaurant
in Minneapolis down by the river.
Yeah. That I've tried stuff there that I never would have gotten the chance to otherwise. And but yeah, I've had hot dish one time. It's not something my mom made. It's not something I learned to make. I just had it once at a party. So and the other traditional things, no, I don't really. I think of the restaurants probably that I live by. That's what I think of.
No, that's awesome. I love that. Food. How about, do you have a favorite Minnesota lake?
That would be Lake Nokomis. Just
okay.
In my neighborhood, and have many memories of taking my kids when they were little and then walking around it, especially again during the pandemic. I feel like there were so few things you could do, but I could meet a friend and walk around the lake. I mean, at first we started really far and then we were like, maybe we can walk closer together. But it was just, I don't know, there's always so many people and families doing things, and it's just such a great space. You can rent a swan and you can ice fish in the winter. And sometimes that dinosaur, the dinosaur I'm talking about, or maybe it's a Loch Ness monster. It moves from lake to lake, but it's always
yeah.
When it's there. And
you know what's nice about Lake Nokomis is like it's really busy in sections, but like there are like also sections that are you're definitely still in the city, right? But you're definitely in a quieter part of this. You're on a quieter part of the lake, which I really appreciate about Lake Nokomis.
Yeah.
Harriet, I feel like it's like all busy all the way around.
Yeah,
it might not be, but it's a different feel.
But yeah, I love the rose gardens, so that's kind of the plus over there.
Yeah, that's true. Harriet has its pluses for sure, but I like at Nokomis you can walk around it and you'll come into a quieter place where there aren't as many people. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, being that you're an artist, do you have a favorite Minnesota artist / author / illustrator? You can go to town on this one.
Well, it's interesting that he does live here. So this is something you're going to learn about me. But when I was a kid and a teen, not so much now, but when I was little, I was a big horror fan, actually. And some of my favorite books were those scary stories to tell in the dark. And I remember we were like terrified of the illustrations in that book, but we could not put them down. But we would like me and my brother would just like whoa, like you'd scare each other with them. And that is Stephen Gamble did those illustrations. And then when I was first starting out, I met up with some other illustrators, and they said, "Oh, well, you can meet Stephen. Like we could meet at this like coffee shop below. I think like it's his studio." And I was just like, "What?" So I will never forget getting to meet him. And he was very, eccentric. I don't think he had shoes or socks on, but he came down, and at first he tried to be kind of like standoffish, but was a very cool and nice guy. And so that still is, I think anyone who can create strong emotion with just visuals. I love that. I love that. I always tell kids, and nothing against authors, but usually I am introduced again and again as an author. And I'm like, and an illustrator, and an illustrator. I always try to show them in the books the pictures that don't need words, because I feel like that is an illustrator's job, is to create something that doesn't even need words. And I feel like Stephen is very good at that, because like I said, we were genuinely terrified of those pictures. So.
Well, that's awesome to meet like a childhood hero, kind of, right?
Or just, there's that weird, I don't know, again, maybe if people relate to this, but I feel like when you're little, there's kind of a disconnect that humans existing in the world create the things you love, the cartoons, the books. I feel like it's better now. Like maybe there's more of awareness because of like the internet or whatever. But I feel like when I was a kid, it just was like, this is my book and this is my thing. And then that's what I think is super cool, to kind of evolve into realizing like, whoa, but like a person made that, like a person I could meet, a person I could even, share a similar career with and talk to you about is what's so very cool.
That's true. You're right. And I do think you're right. The internet has made it more of a personal thing. Like not personal, like this is my book, but it's more of a, you're the person behind my book.
Right. You can find pictures and things where when I was a kid, I think sometimes they would have you, do like a fan letter. Mm-hmm. I think I wrote Jim Davis or something. I'm trying to remember, but they never wrote back, or if they did, it was usually, just like a standard, like letter from their office and stuff. It seemed still very untouchable. We're now,
right.
It's a little bit, you can like see, a picture or something about them, follow them on social media.
Yeah, exactly. More of a full picture of them. As a Minnesotan, what stories would you like people to know? Like people around the world or people here in Minnesota?
I mean, that's a tricky one. I really feel like I hope people know Minnesota. Like any place, we have our trials and our issues, but I feel like when I think about it, I think more about the things that we're trying to achieve, the places where we've tried to come together. I mean, obviously, like any land in this country, there's a history of the first people who came here and how different things were named. And I like that people are acknowledging that. We should acknowledge that more, but that new people are still coming. And I'm hoping there's always the story that our state is welcoming. Like I know the Twin Cities are, like I said, every state has its different areas, but I'm always hoping that that's the main message, that we are trying to be welcoming of everyone. Like when, I see my neighbors putting out the flags, all are welcome, that we truly mean that, as the landscape of this nation, I don't know, it changes and goes places we don't know. I hope it always is known that where we live is welcoming, and the people here want the best for everyone. And then even the nature too. I do love, that's my one book, Beneath is along the North Shore. I hope more people know. I don't want it to be swamped by tourists, but I don't think it ever would be, but it is beautiful. I know it's different. It's not a beach and it's not hot all the time, but there's a lot of quiet beauty that I feel like is only here, maybe. So that's a good story too. Stories about quiet beauty, or even that mix, like you said, of the lake, how there can be the quiet spots and the busy spots. I think that's such a great way to think of the city in Minnesota is. At least that is, I don't know, it's a great way to think about it. As I drive through, you do seem to find quiet spots and busy spots, and so
And even in Minnesota in general, like we have a lot of different like ecosystems. We have the plains out west, which is where I grew up, and it's kind of dull, but only because I grew up there, right? I'm sure there's beauty. My mom loves the prairie, right? Like just loves it, and I love the trees and the river and the water and the lakes and then there's the conifers, and then there's the deciduous, and we have different ways to celebrate nature here in Minnesota. You've got your work cut out for you, Cori.
That's okay.
Stories abound in Minnesota.
Well, I do think that's why it's such a happen in the community, maybe. There's a lot of stories here.
Do you want to give us some information about your newest book is coming out soon? Do you have another one? I feel like you have 2 in the works, or am I wrong?
Last March.
Okay.
Called Ready to Soar. Nellie's Big Splash is my book. Well, actually, I had 2 books come out last year. One I illustrated about a school, Good Night School, came out in July, and then Nellie's Big Splash is the only one coming out this year. But yes, there's always more in the pipeline. It's just sometimes it's kind of a long process. So I'm working on new ideas. I definitely have stories out sitting to see if they're going to be accepted. I did finish just illustrating a book that I think will be out next year.
Okay.
And then I have another one I should be starting.
Okay, but for this year, Nellie's Big Splash.
I think Nellie's Big Splash is, yes, I think that's the only one I have coming out this year, and that's March 25th. And I will do story times at Wild Rumpus and the Red Balloon.
Okay.
Those I think are both second week of April, the Sunday. I wish I had a calendar in front of me, but I'll be posting online.
Yeah, it'll be after the launch date.
Correct, in April. Yes.
So be on the lookout for March 25th to find Nellie's Big Splash, and then be on the lookout for story time hours. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so very much. This has been really fun conversation. I'm excited to share with our listeners.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you, and loving Minnesota too.
Thank you, Cori, for chatting about our great state of Minnesota and your books and the process of being an author and illustrator. We are so lucky to have you here in our community. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe and follow Let's Go Do Fun Stuff. Also, anything we mentioned will be in the show notes. And you are a visitor. Yes, she needs to be here. Okay. Hi, my name is Cori Lou, and then we'll go from there.
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead. It's not super tricky or hard. You're gonna be just fine. Like there's even like, not Cliffs of Dover. That's not what I'm trying to say, but like, like the bluff. Yeah, that's the word.
Right.
We have different. That's very cool. You are literally like 2 degrees away from Brooke Shields. Just,
I like that you know who she is. There's people now who are like, who?
I know, right? That's true. Like, whenever I think of Brooke Shields, I think of either the doll that she had, because that was around that age, right? When she was super popular. Or I would think, remember when they did Circus with the Stars or whatever on TV?
Oh, gosh, yes.
And she walked on glass. Like this, I don't remember. And I remember thinking, that's not like a trick. she's walking on glass, and we're watching her feet bleed. I
forgot all about that show.
For some reason, like, I don't remember anything else from Circus of the Stars, but that I remember.
I love it so much.